Eyes on Me. Eyes on You. Chapter 22. Eyes on You. Trixie! Are you ready? Came Twilight's voice, muffled by the washroom door that led out from the bedroom. Not yet, said Trixie, was still fiddling over her match to get her bang delayed just so. 2 more minutes. Okay, don't rush, Twilight chirped. I'm not rushing, Trixie grunted. She turned to steal another look at the full-body mirror she procured from downstairs. The ashtray-coated unicorn looking back at her was gorgeous as usual, if not more so. What with the brilliant white dress fastened around her neck, the clasp was a moon symbol, cut from some manner of blue gem, was led up to a slight collar. Not unlike was adorned her cape. A sleek saddle rested on her back, and from it flowed the shortest frilled skirt whose hem was just about to reach the end of her tail. Most of her front, including her chest and legs, was left exposed, showing off her soft azure coat, and on her hose she wore an elegant dance suit that had a very crystalline look and feel about them. And if she was a more anthro character, I would be really drooling. Woo! The only issue of the picture of perfection was before her domain. She decided to exaggerate the dolphin parts at the end, but... Why won't you lay right? She hissed, poking at the offending mane with magic again. Puzzle, came to his voice. Nothing, said Trixie. I'm almost done. After a moment more fiddling, she finally got to where she wanted, and, quickly as she dared, she fastened it in place with the butterfly hairpin that came with the dress. Finally! So she turned to face the door into the washroom. She had to fight back the primal urge to flick back her mane. Instead of settling for clearing her throat, she prepared herself. Alright, I'm ready, she declared. You are? Said Twilight. Okay, I'm coming out. The door clicked and began to inch open. Trixie's breath caught her throat as her partner stepped out into the bedroom. Her jaw inched open of its own accord as she beheld the dressed-up Twilight sparkle. She wore a soft pink ensemble that literally glistened in the lamplight of the room. Twilight's dress covered most of her body, hanging a chest piece that led to her plus shawl, and beneath the lengthy skirt that draped down to her flank and tail, whilst its hem trailed behind her on the carpet. The sleeves that would cover her legs were rolled up to the shoulders, and on each hoof she wore a golden slipper that looked like a darn sight more comfortable than Trixie's own shoes. To top it all off, her hair was tied back in an oriental bun, past the blue feather, still tucked behind her ear, and held in place by a decorative stick. On her face she wore a tiny, gentle smile that timidly saw approval. Trixie could scarcely believe her eyes as she beheld the angel before her. You look very beautiful, Twilight Sparkle, she hummed, finding herself smiling an uncontrollable, though gentle smile. Never in her life, thus far, could she remember making a statement more honest or heartfelt. Twilight's own smile widened sheepishly, as he glanced downward and saw poking at the carpet with a hoof. So do you, Trixie, she said. Trixie felt a flash of pride at that, cracking a smirk and flicking back her mane, which mercifully fell back into place afterwards. A moment later, though, she went back to staring at Twilight. The lavender mare had always been pretty, and admittedly rather adorable at times, but this was something else entirely. Trixie wanted to savor the moment. A very long moment it was, during which the two stood there, staring and smiling at another in peace and mutual silence. Inevitably, though, the moment passed. Trixie remembered he had somewhere they needed to be. Well, it's nearly time, she managed. Let's not keep everybody waiting. Twilight seemed to blink off days of her own, gave a firm nod. They didn't have to walk all the way to the ballroom. There was a carriage waiting for them outside their hotel. It carried them through the slowly darkening streets of Manhattan. Twilight found herself shuffling her host anxiously during the wait. She went over the dance steps in her mind, as if revising for a test, though the prospect was really more exciting than it was daunting. By the looks of Trixie, she was excited too, as she was practically leaning forward to look out the window. She obviously noticed Twilight looking, because she smiled proudly beside herself, though she didn't turn to look back. Twilight found the urge to roll her eyes strangely underwhelming that evening. Before long, the carriage came to a steady stop, and one of their drivers hurried around to hold their door open and let them out. Twilight and Trixie exchanged a quick glance before rising together and hopping down onto the pavement. They found themselves standing at the edge of a wide stone plaza, protected from the rain by a great canopy overhead. Dozens of other carriages were dotted around the place, from which more and more couples were emerging. all headed for the large, fancy-looking building up ahead. That's our ballroom, then, said Twilight, smiling at her partner. Shall we go inside? We could stay out here if you wanted, said Trixie casually. It might get a little cold later on, though. Twilight gave a mock frown and mercifully, playfully bumped to Trixie's side. Don't make fun of me. Trixie let out a quiet chuckle and bumped her back into the starting ballroom door. I had to make fun of some pony, she called back. You happen to be my favorite. Oh, lucky me, of Twilight, smiling beside herself as she caught these out to her partner. Together, they took the steps and drew up to the huge door. Outside was a pair of smartly dressed stallions bowing them inside. The door opened onto a grand, red-carpeted entrance hall, brightly lit by a fancy chandelier hanging from the ceiling. Gold and silver tapestries adorned the curved walls, meaning the carpets are standing out against the darker railings on the staircases. Let's flank the outer parts of the room. The whole place practically shone. And Moonlight Sonata is playing in my head from Final Fantasy VIII. Final Fantasy VIII. That gives me an idea. Directly ahead of Twilight and Trixie was another door, which everybody else seemed to be heading towards. The golden engraved plaque above the door was any indication and led to the main ballroom. As they made towards it, though, another smartly dressed stallion approached from the side and bowed his head. Pardon me, he said. Miss Twilight Sparkle and Miss Trixie, I presume. Twilight fastened with an uncertain smile. Yes, that's us. The stallion lifted his head and held his nose high. Delighted that you could make it. Now, if you allow me, I shall escort you up to the VIP room. We're VIPs? Said Twilight dumbly. Of course we're VIPs, said Trixie, holding her nose higher than the stallion's. Yes, you may show us up if you wish. As you may, my lady, said the stallion. He bowed once more before heading for the staircase and beginning to climb, with Twilight and Trixie lagging just a little behind. Twilight found herself glancing around at the lobby's decorations as they climbed towards the second floor landing. It was actually kind of hard to keep herself busy, being as anxious as she was about the dance. It's exciting, isn't it? Said to Trixie. A ball, and VIPs as well. Trixie raised a brow at her. You say that as you've never been one before. I haven't, said Twilight. This is actually my first. Your first? Trixie repeated, raising another brow. You were the princess student for how long? You must have been to all sorts of events like this. Twilight adopted a stupid smile. Well, she did invite me to things like this a number of times, but I was never really interested. Let me guess. You went to the library instead, said Trixie deadpan. Well, yeah. Trixie outlined a smiling huff. At least you're consistent. Hey! Hissed Twilight, bumping into Trixie again. The showmare just giggled to herself. Here we are, my ladies, said their guide, coming to a stop outside the double door on the second floor landing. He bowed his head one last time, using his magic to hold the door open for them. Please enjoy your evening. We will, thank you, said Twilight in passing. As she and Trixie stepped inside, they were met with a plethora of sights and sounds from all around them. The ballroom was thriving with well-dressed partygoers, all chatting and laughing and drinking together to a gentle tune played by a four-pony band in its far corner. Hi, Octavia! Hello! On one side of the room was an open bar. It was a coiffed main stallion was serving drinks to a row of thirsty patrons. On the opposite side, dozens of small round tables were arranged for ponies to chat and relax around. And at the very back of the room, before the band's raised platform, was a wide dance floor, which for the moment was all but empty. I guess we're not that important after all, Trixie grunted, surveying the scene as the door closed behind them. There must be 100 ponies in here. Twilight took a few steps forward and smiled beside herself as she took in the relaxed atmosphere. Having been to so many Pinkie Pie's parties, more generic parties, over the last few months, it was a refreshing change. I like it, she observed. So, what do we do? There aren't many ponies dancing yet. There won't be until later on, said Trixie as he came up alongside. Every pony will be mingling with the other guests while they wait for the rest to arrive. Oh, okay, said Twilight. She looked over the tables and the throngs of posh-looking ponies surrounding them, many of whom seemed to be holding a competition to see who could hold their nose the highest for the longest time. She got an expectant look from Trixie. Well, said the showmare. Twilight curled her lip and glanced towards the bar. I think I better get a drink first, if that's all right. Trixie smirked. Mingling with the party guests was not nearly as enjoyable as Trixie had expected. Almost every party you see in Twilight engaged in conversation were quick to offer congratulations, or at least acknowledgement, for their efforts in display. But beyond that, they were really boring snobbish ponies. And what, if I may be so bold to ask, was your inspiration for that splendid fire spell yesterday? Droned a middle-aged mare wearing dreary half-moon spectacles. Oh, that amazing feat of magic, said Trixie humbly, closing her eyes and waving a hoof. It was really very easy for some pony of Trixie's caliber. Trixie simply drew inspiration from her partner, Twilight Sparkle. Twilight offered a sheepish smile as Trixie gestured towards her. Indeed, said the snobby mare of state, a tall stallion whose eyes seemed to be almost glued shut. And was it the real fire that you used for that turret? No, of course not, said Twilight helpfully. If we used real fire, we would have been burnt to a crisp. I see, said the stallion, stealing against his partner. Well, we wish you good luck for tomorrow, said the dreary mare. Come along, darling. I believe I saw Cousin Pushpenny over about the table. Quite. Now's high. Paw's pair broke off and disappeared, intermingling with the other nearby guests. Trixie let out a heavy sigh and leant back against the wall, leaving her drink to her lips. Trixie has never met anyone as wholly boring as these ponies in her life, she groaned. What time is it? Trixie wants to get to bed. It's only 8:30, said Twilight, sipping her own drink. And you could turn off the Trixie lock now. It's just the two of us. I don't know what you're talking about, said Trixie. Twilight managed to smile, but not quite a giggle as she looked out over the dance floor. Judging by her lack of humor and the pensive look in her eyes, she was obviously feeling as dull and bored as Trixie was. Trixie followed her gaze to the dance floor, where many ponies were dancing now, as they had been for the past half hour or so. Among them, she spotted some of her fellow competitors. Earth Twister danced with a younger mare, whilst his brother, Sandstorm, was prancing around with Cherry Blossom. Her partner, Baydancer, seemed to be following Twilight and Trixie's example, leaning against the wall with his drink and watching idly. Naturally, one pair of dancers in particular stood out amongst the rest. Flare and Rose were performing an encore to performance for the display. Less the magic, of course, to the amazement of their onlookers. He wore naught but a bow tie, obviously keen to show off his coat, while she wore yet another glistening one-piece. We are red this time. I wish she probably had dozens of supermodel wardrobe. I'm not jealous, Trixie reminded herself. I gave him up years ago. He's not my problem anymore. Casting a worried look for Twilight, Trixie was quick to clear her mind and change the subject. That was my idea, you know, she said with a nod towards Flare and Rose. The magic dance, I mean. I came up with it back when we were little. Oh, is that so? Said Twilight, amiably picking up her ear. Trixie nodded and paused to sip her drink, whilst Flare performed an eye-casting flourish in the middle of the dance floor. Drew an excitement murmur from his little audience, and let the sour taste of Trixie's mouth. We never got around to actually using it, she continued. None of us could dance back then. It was really just a silly idea to begin with. Right, said Twilight carefully. I still can't believe he stole it, though, Trixie growled with a fake glare. This goes to show how much of a jerk he is, I guess. The two of them watched in silence as Flare and Rose continued their routine, and the music score began to draw to an end. Steps and slides, twists and turns, before finally fizzing with an exaggerated twirl, landing in a bow to one another just as the music ceased. Flare's small audience gave him a round of applause, drawing more eyes from across the room in his direction. The very moment he and his partner stepped off the dance floor, they were swamped by a throng of interested partygoers, including, Trixie noticed, those two dreary ponies that had been talking to her just moments ago. Trixie scoffed. You always did that, too. Did what? Twilight asked around her glass. That, said Trixie, nodding towards the crowd around Flare. His audience. Seriously! Whenever he was around, every pony was busy soaking him up, and he wouldn't do so much as bat an eyelash at me. Not unless he reminded them to. She trailed off, her gaze softened up a little as she watched the grin on his face. I guess he did, though, sometimes, she continued to mutter. He'd already mind ponies a tear for me as well, since he wouldn't have been able to do it without me. Maybe he did think of me more than an assistant. Fleur laughed at some pony's joke, and Trixie immediately shook her head to refocus herself. Or maybe it's a mixture of the wine and your positive attitude rubbing off on me. I think that's more likely. Neither her smirk nor her self-praising joke drew so much a smile from Twilight. Instead, Lavender Mare just stared at her with a thoughtful frown. Trixie, she breathed. That's why you don't like him? Feeling a little uncomfortable under her look, Trixie turned her eyes to her glass and shrugged casually. Besides him being a jerk in general, yes, she said, sipping from her drink. Twilight's frown deepened. I never meant to make you feel that way, Trixie. When I was talking to him, I was never ignoring you. I know, Twilight. I do, Trixie said reassuringly. You don't have to worry about that, especially after, She trailed off, not quite sure how to refer to the event 2 days past, when Twilight had given her the mirror. Confession was such an implicating word. In any case, Twilight obviously understood what she was talking about, because she obviously seemed too embarrassed to hold Trixie's gaze for her part. Trixie simply became unaware of what she had just brought into the conversation. Also, conveniently, her glass was empty. I'm going to get another drink, she announced, swinging against Casual. Shall I get you one as well? Twilight glanced up at Trixie, then down at her own glass, which was almost empty, before finally meeting the Showmare's eyes. Yes, please, she said. Somebody else smiled that said she was just to be glad to start the topic, as Trixie was. So, feeling slightly relieved, and somewhat anxious, Trixie turned and started towards the bar. Twilight smiled thoughtfully at the trail of her partner's dress as Trixie slinked away across the room. She couldn't help but thinking to herself that Trixie and Fleur were very much of an enigma. He tried to one-up her when they performed, but he didn't mean anything by it. She was jealous of the attention he got, though he tried to share it with her. She hated him, yet there was still part of her that saw him as her big brother, her old partner. Siblings are complicated, Twilight sighed, sipping at her drink, and idly wondered what would happen between them at the display. Only time would tell, I suppose.
You're looking particularly dazzling tonight.
Twilight jumped as he turned to the source of the voice, a certain green-coated stallion standing right beside her. Oh, Fleur, you startled me, she said, breathing an embarrassed sigh of relief. Registering the compliment, she pressed an impulsive hoof past her fringe. Thank you. That's very, dapper bow tie you're wearing.
Fleur laughed quietly. Ha ha ha. Thank you. I couldn't find anything else to wear on such short notice. I'm sure you've been talking to a few unsavory comments tonight.
He added in a joking undertone. Twilight allowed him a smile, though her gaze instinctively darted across the room towards Trixie. The showmare was still standing in a long line at the bar, tapping her hoof and filling with her next glass. Where's your partner? Said Twilight, turning to face Fleur again.
Oh, she's over on the dance floor somewhere,
he said, looking out towards her as he spoke.
We met a gentlecolt who asked her for a dance. Fancy Pants, he said his name was. Lovely chap.
Oh, I see.
And Trixie,
said Fleur. Just over there, getting us some drinks, Twilight indicated. Fleur stared over at Trixie for a long moment, with a thoughtful look on his face.
I see, he muttered. Well then, I suppose we'll just have to keep each other company for a while.
Twilight adopted a nervous sort of smile, pretended interest in her wine glass. I'm sure.
I'm really not that bad, he said in a light-hearted tone, although I do believe I owe you something of an apology for what happened after the second event.
What do you mean? Twilight grunted, looking up at him questioningly.
It looked as though I got you into a spot of trouble with Trixie,
he went on.
When I asked you to help me regain her trust, if I'd known she would yell at you.
Twilight shook her head at understanding. Oh, no, don't worry about that. Once I explained what I was trying to do, she understood, although she was a bit grumpy the next day.
Really?
Said Fleur, raising his eyebrows.
She just forgave you, just like that?
Really? Twilight confirmed with a slight smile and a nod. Glanced over at Trixie later, as he found a funny thought crossing her mind. You know, rather than you apologizing, I think I should be thanking you. There's something I should have said to her a long time ago. If she had been in such a bad mood that day, I might never have done it.
Is that right? Said Flair, angling his head towards Trixie for a moment, while resuming a smile at Twilight. You two certainly have an interesting relationship. But then, I suppose all relationships are interesting in their own way, aren't they?
Twilight let out a slight grunt and smiled at her glass again. I wouldn't really know, she mumbled. Her ears caught wind of a new score starting up for the band. This beat went heavily with violin, starting in a reasonable place, rather than being particularly slow or upbeat.
And on that note,
muttered Flair. Twilight turned to him with a expectant look, to find him smiling at that particular charming smile at her. He extended a hoof towards her.
Twilight Sparkle, would you honor me with a dance?
He said smoothly. Her mouth fell open a little. He's asking me to dance? She mused in disbelief. But nobody's ever asked me to dance before. As well as have never been to an official ball before, as he told Trixie earlier. Twilight never actually had a formal dance with any pony. Tonight was going to be her first. She stared at the proffered hoof, biting her lip uncertainly as the music started to pick up volume. More and more couples began making their way onto the dance floor. Claire was still smiling patiently, not making a move either way. It was down to her. She glanced sideways at Trixie. The show mare was still 3 or 4 places from the front of the line now. There'd be plenty of time for a quick dance before she was served. But that thought was quick to make its way to the back of her mind as she stared at her bored partner in the line. Trixie had given up fiddling with her class, and was now simply tapping her foot hoof impatiently against the carpeted floor. Moments passed before she rolled her head backwards with eyes closed. She let out a huff with, although Twilight couldn't actually hear it, seemed to carry across the room. Half smiling to herself, Twilight made her decision. No, thank you, Flair. She said, smile wandered as her words left her mouth. There's only one pony I want to dance with tonight. Her response was met with silence, but she hardly noticed. Didn't much care, as she was still staring at Trixie. Her perfectly brushed mane, her immodest but lovely dress, her typically patient demeanor. In fact, said Twilight, coming to an even more excited decision, would you hold this for me? She turned to Flair and magically preferred her glass to him. Flair for once seemed to have lost a little of his cool demeanor. He blinked and mouthed for a moment with the glass.
Yes, of course,
he said, taking it from her. With a beaming smile and not taking a look back, Twilight swept away from him and strode determinedly across the room, towards the line at the bar. Trixie! She called out as she drew near. Showmare turned at her name, looking surprised when she saw Twilight right behind her. Yes? Without so much as a moment's hesitation, Twilight smiled with confidence and extended a hug towards her partner. Will you dance with me? She asked. Trixie's eyes widened. Her mouth fell open a smidge, the spinning image of Twilight a moment ago. She stared at Twilight's hoof, and then back at her eyes, a welcome expression on her face. Twilight tilted her head cutely. A smile tugged at Trixie's lips. And Trixie said no. I'm sorry, guys, but I hate to surprise you, but that's how this fic ends. Trixie refuses Twilight's advances, and the romance does not carry on. Yeah, you could go home now. Go. Click on one of the other videos. I'm pretty positive you'll find something else. Go. So, did you buy it? Are you still here? Oh, of course Trixie's about to take her hoof! To Twilight's delight, Trixie reached out and took the hoof, bringing a beaming glint to the bookmare's face. The next thing she knew, Trixie found herself following inside Twilight to the dance floor, squeezing between the other pairs and trying to find an empty spot. She was still reeling a little from the surprise proposition. Admittedly, she wasn't quite sure why she accepted, given her past experiences trying to dance. I never sang my songs on the stage on my own. I never said my words wishing they would be heard. I saw you smiling at me. Was it real or just my fantasy? You'd always be in the corner of this tiny little bar. Ever so, as he trailed to him of her partner's dress to the crowd, she couldn't deny the quiet sense of excitement in the back of her mind. Finally, they came to an empty space between several other pairs, at which point Twilight stopped and turned to face Trixie with an expectant smile. On some kind of impulse, Trixie lifted her previously injured hoof back a little, half wanting to mouth protests and leading, but found herself unable to do so. Twilight, though, picked up on it one way or the other. By way of taking the lead, she placed a prepared hoof down on the ground before Trixie, just as the musical score began to move in its second verse. Trixie hesitated for a moment more, before steadily lowering her own hoof and placing it across from her partner's. She looked at Twilight in question and received a smile in response. Together, they dragged their hose diagonally back to themselves, alternated the other four hoses, and repeated the motion in time with the music. Gradually at first, they began to pick up the pace. Trixie found herself not slightly to keep her pace in tune. As the music crescendoed, Twilight angled towards her. They took a step forwards and to the side. Trixie mimicked her, stepping clockwise and taking care not to stand on Twilight's dress. Twilight took another step. So did Trixie. After two more, they managed to find time with each other and began circling steadily. It was reassuring to see that Twilight, at least, seemed to know what she was doing. My last night here for you, same old songs, just once more. My last night here with you, maybe yes, maybe no. I kind of liked it your way, how you shyly placed your eyes on me. Did you ever know that I had mine on you? Do-do-do, bum-bum-bum, dum-dum-dum, dum-dum-dum. Darling, so there you are, with that look on your face, as if you're never hurt, as if you're never down. Shall I be the one for you, who pisses you softly but sure? If frown is shown, then I will know that you are no dreamer. Do-do-do, bum-bum-bum. When the tune switched up an octave, every pony around them switched directions. So naturally, Trixie made to do the same, though she was a little late. She bumped her head against Twilight's, and they both let out surprised grunts as they stumbled backwards. Blinking the dizzy daze in her eyes, Trixie caught Twilight rubbing her forehead. An embarrassed and angry stir of heat welled up her chest, but vanished just as quickly as Twilight cracked a timid smile and proffered her hoof again. Shaking it off, Trixie cleared her throat, stepped forwards, and took the hoof, beginning to sidestep around Twilight and keeping their gaze lit this time. She started picking up signals from Twilight's eyes and lips, telling her when and where to move. Step, step, step. Switch hooves. Twilight moved a little too quickly and stumbled. As Trixie turned, they collided another foot pair, disrupting their dance. Oh, I'm terribly sorry, said the blue-haired stallion. Trixie staggered into. Beside him was none other than Flair's partner, Desert Rose, beginning to regain her balance as well. Finding back her embarrassment, Trixie glared at the stallion. But be more careful, she growled. Yes, of course. Forgive me, he said, bowing his head. Desert Rose herself seemed to have no comment. In fact, the moment she recovered, she just flashed them both a smile and grabbed her partner by the fetlock, pulling them away to continue their dance. Trixie took a breath and turned to face Twilight again. She's still smiling and gave it another shot. Step, side step, back step, forward step, break apart. They did without error. Step, 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 switch directions. Trixie missed the signal and stepped again, whilst Twilight changed direction, throwing him off tune. She tried to correct, Twilight did the same. They scrambled quickly to each other for a moment, before finally bumping heads again, tripping over another's dress and collapsing spectacularly onto the wooden floor. The flesh heap turned to Trixie's chest, and her face fell too quickly. The dance broke a moment later. She physically pushed herself to the dances and shook her head, scowling at higher embarrassment as she turned away. "I'm done!" she hissed, starting to stop away amidst the amused glances of the other dancers. She left Twilight on the floor behind her, but she did little more than 2 steps before stopping as she caught Flare's eyes across the room. Standing by the wall, holding a wine glass, and watching her with a mocking smirk of his own, he raised his glass to her. She could only mouth at him, finding herself daily taken aback, too ashamed of herself to even summon up a customary glare she had reserved for him. She thought back to his flawless dance with Rose. She became doubly aware of those not dancing were chuckling and pointing at her. She remembered the lavender mare on the floor behind her. "So let me be close to you, close as I wanna be, close enough for me to feel your heart beating fast, and stay there as I whisper how I love your peaceful eyes on me. Did you ever know that I had mine on you? Darling, so share with me your love if you had enough, your tears if holding back, or pain if that's what it is. How can I let you know I'm more than a dress and a voice? Just reach out to me, then you will know that you are not dreaming." Trixie stared down in a moment, then slowly reached her out to help her up. Twilight blinked rapidly, glanced at Trixie's hoof, then her eyes, with her mouth open. It was Trixie's turn to offer a warm smile, and Twilight's to accept the hoof. "Darling, so there you are, with that look on your face, as if you're never hurt, as if you're never down. Shall I be the one for you, who pities you softly but sure? If frown is shown, then I will know you're no dreamer." Thank you. Thank goodness Trixie isn't here, so you would have gotten me for that one. Merely to remind me that the lawyers would be hunting me down. Luckily, Marcel Bravestar has informed me of something. "Well, quite frankly, since there's no music in there, I don't see YouTube's copyright bots hunting you down." Thank you. And now on with the show. An hour later, the dance floor was still as the band began their slow introduction to the next score. In the very center of the floor stood 2 unicorn mares, smiling with confidence as they stared into one another's eyes. The loud upbeat tune started. 2 mares crossed their hooves on the ground and pulled them back, across the others. Again and again, they stepped up to opposite sides and started to circle at quarter angles. Step, step, switch instructions. Step, step, switch. They twirled in perfect unison, whipping each other's manes back as with the wind as they brushed one another. A few more circling steps, then they turned to face each other properly. Twilight stepped forwards. Trixie stepped back. Trixie stepped forwards. Twilight stepped back. Trixie, Twilight, Twilight, Trixie. They twirled around in counter directions, forcing perfectly and landing, facing each other. Other dancers were deliberately moving back to give them more room. Eyes locked, still smiling, they stepped inwards again until their snouts touched. They turned, keeping their noses together, circling around one way, then the other. They came to a stop. Trixie whirled this again when the music sex crescendo, whirling masterfully and whipping the hem of her dress past her partner's ears. Once he landed, Twilight mimicked her, sending her sparkling paint past her eyes. They landed. They drew themselves onto their hind legs, touching hooves as well as snouts now, and as the music reached its climaxing note, Twilight and Trixie pushed each other with one apart until they stood perfectly balanced at arm's length. The seconds-long silence that followed was nothing short of serene, till a gentle wave of approving claps came from nearby. Turning their heads together, Twilight and Trixie beheld a group of onlookers, muttering, smiling, and clapping in their direction. A few of the other dancers actually joined in with the little applause. The two mares met one another's eyes again, with wide, prideful smiles on their faces. It was late. The night had long swing on since to wind down. The band was playing a very soft, relaxed tune. Not many ponies were still dancing now, but that was a little notice to the two mares waltzing steadily on their hind legs, each hopelessly lost in each other's eyes. Twilight Sparkle found herself in the most wonderful states. Her entire world was standing right in front of her, reflected in Trixie's glimmering, violet eyes. Every now and then, they would take a step as one, but beyond that, there was simply nothing else. Twilight couldn't remember at times she felt more at peace. How long have we been dancing like this? She idly wondered. Minutes? Hours? I guess it doesn't matter. Just as forever, I don't think I mind. It was a nice notion, but ridiculously romantic. And the problem with that is... She couldn't stop her mind from adding a but to the end of the thought. We're coming to the end, aren't we? She asked as it being more of a whisper. Voice sounded a little hoarse, but not from speaking in so long. It's barely noticeable. Yes, we are, Trixie muttered back. I'm not sure I want it to end, Twilight confessed. Not this night, not the display, not us, her mind filled in. Trixie gave a tiny smirk as he swayed to one side. You're not sure. Twilight blinked and smiled faintly at her partner's soft tone. Okay, I am sure, she whispered. I don't want it to end. Everything has to end sometime, Twilight, said Trixie gently. If I could basically make it last longer, I would. But it's out of my hooves. Twilight angled her head, smiling warmly. I know you would. She paused to focus those eyes for a moment before speaking up again. Now let's enjoy this night while we can. Everything else can wait until tomorrow, right? Trixie smiled too, but her gaze fell regretfully to Twilight's chest. Not everything, she said. Twilight grunted. What do you mean? I have a confession to make, said Trixie, keeping her slightly ashamed eyes locked on Twilight's chest now. Twilight's mouth wrenched open, but she didn't flush this time. As they were now, she felt so intimately close to Trixie that no words could possibly embarrass her. The disturbing thought they might as well affect her in other ways. You don't have to say anything, Twilight told her amidst a sense of deja vu. Trixie thoughtfully shook her head. I promised I would. But it can wait, said Twilight, even though her voice was quiet. It came with a hint of desperation. Please, let's just have tonight. It could wait until tomorrow. I'm sorry, but it can't. Trixie muttered. Twilight felt a worried frown coming to her face as Trixie looked up and met her eyes. There was something ominous about the unsmiling expression on the Snowmare's face. I have nothing to say, Twilight, Trixie breathed, a solemn face. I thought about it, but there's absolutely nothing I could say after everything you showed me that day. I'm sorry. They were still watching ever so slowly to the gentle music, but Twilight couldn't help but feel there was some tiny void opening up between them. Has he been wrong? Was this not what she thought it was? Oh, come on! Trixie, she trailed off. She absolutely had no idea what to say. Kiss her? As if it was supposed to say anything at all. Kiss her? So, what happens now? She asked crookedly, fearing the answer as much anticipated. Trixie gulped visibly. No. She began staring longingly into Twilight's eyes. I'm going to kiss you, Twilight Sparkle. Finally! Twilight let out a quiet breath as she felt the words tighten in her chest. She became aware of her own heartbeat, of her steadily breathing in silence and surroundings. Trixie's face hovered and her head tilted away as she waited. Her glistening eyes saw a response. Okay, said Twilight. All at once, as the life-changing word left her mouth, her heart slowed, her breathing stopped, and the world around her faded away. Trixie's face grew closer. Her lips parted. Her eyes began to droop, till I let her own eyes fall shut as Trixie's warm presence overcame her. And then their lips met. Woohoo! About freaking time, Vic! I've been waiting, what, 22 freaking chapters? The feeling was like no other. Relief, elation, pride, joy, all at once, yet nothing at all. It was perfect harmony, like all the magic and wonder in the world was poured into a single, everlasting moment between the two of them. With time standing still, and no world to pull them back, the two mares shared their embrace for a near forever. Maybe it would end, maybe it wouldn't. Twilight Sparkle didn't care. She and Trixie were sharing the most amazing kind of magic she ever felt, and nothing in the universe mattered more to her. Thank you. Would have been better if this fic actually had used the eyes on you, but no, I had to add that myself.